Listening back to thinking with Starlight. Using transcripts and AI to support teachers' reflective practice. If dialogue is our craft, how often do we really get to study it? Not recall it, not reflect on the general feeling of a lesson, but actually study it. The way a musician studies a recording or a surgeon reviews footage of their own procedure. In this video, we'll ask the question, what becomes possible when the lesson has ended? When did you last listen back to your own teaching in genuine detail? After a lesson ends, we remember things. But we don't remember accurately, and the gap matters enormously. There are 4 things that reliably distort post-lesson memory. The first is selective recall. We remember what confirmed our intentions, the moments that matched what we hoped would happen. The rest becomes noise. The second is emotional distortion. The feeling we carry out of a room shapes everything. A lesson that felt productive gets remembered as productive. A lesson that felt difficult gets remembered as difficult, often regardless of what actually happened linguistically. The third is the intention gap. There is almost always a difference between the question we planned to ask and the question we actually asked. Without a record, we can't see it. And the fourth, perhaps the most important, is pattern blindness. We cannot see the habits we're inside. Our default questioning strategies, our tendency to jump in before silence has had time to work, the students whose contributions we consistently follow versus the ones we consistently drop. These are invisible to us precisely because they are habitual. This is not a criticism of teachers. It's a structural problem with unassisted reflection. Here is a short transcript excerpt. It reads like this. Teacher, so do you think that's fair? Student 1, I think so, maybe. Teacher, good. What does anyone else think? Student 2, but wait, didn't we say earlier that? Teacher, yes, exactly right. So what do we conclude? Now look at this exchange carefully. Whose thinking is being built on? What happened to student 2's unfinished thought? How many questions did the teacher effectively answer for the group before the students had time to? In the moment, this exchange probably felt like a productive inquiry. The teacher was engaged. Students were contributing. The dialogue was moving. But the transcript reveals something different. A student's emerging idea, possibly the most interesting thing in the room, was cut off and absorbed into the teacher's own conclusion. A transcript doesn't judge. It reveals. It makes visible what memory smooths over. Transcript-based lesson analysis isn't new. What Starlight does is build on 60 years of research evidence. In the 1960s, Ned Flanders developed the first systematic way of coding talk ratios in classrooms. He showed that how much time a teacher talks versus how much time students talk is measurable and consequential for learning. In 1975, Sinclair and Coulthard identified the IRF sequence, initiation, response, feedback, the dominant pattern of classroom talk. More importantly, they showed that a teacher's dialogic intentions are most honestly revealed in a transcript, not in their memory of a lesson. By 1988, Kasdan and Schoen had established close reading of classroom language as essential to teacher education. Their central argument, the gap between what a teacher intends and what they actually do, is invisible without a record. Through the 1990s and 2000s, Neil Mercer and Robin Alexander demonstrated through research that transcript analysis shifts questioning behavior in ways that observation notes alone simply cannot. And in Japan, Lesson Study, a national improvement model built on non-evaluative analysis of classroom language, has been doing this at scale for decades. Starlight doesn't invent this practice. It makes it accessible, frequent, and sustainable. So what does a transcript actually surface? When Starlight analyzes a lesson, it looks at the ratio of teacher to student talk. It identifies question types, open, closed, rhetorical, and tracks how those question types distribute across the lesson. It measures wait time after questions. It maps patterns of affirmation and redirection. It notes moments of silence, and perhaps most importantly, it tracks whose thinking gets followed and whose gets dropped. 2 pieces of recent research are worth noting here. A Stanford randomized controlled trial found that AI coaching narrowed to specific questioning behaviors improved practice while preserving practitioner agency. A Harvard classroom study found that sustained change in teacher practice occurs when automated feedback is narrow, precise, and repeatedly focused on one single high-leverage move. The message from the research is consistent. Specificity matters more than comprehensiveness. Starlight is designed around that finding. The transcript is a thinking tool, not a judgment tool. Before showing you what Starlight does, let's be precise about what it doesn't do, because this is where trust is built or lost. Starlight does not participate in or influence the lesson. It has no presence in the classroom. It does not score the philosophical depth of dialogue. It does not evaluate teachers against any performance framework. It does not replace the role of a human coach or mentor. It does not generate reports visible to senior leaders or line managers without the teacher's explicit consent. And it makes no judgments about student thinking. These are not limitations. They are deliberate design choices. Starlight exists to serve the teacher's reflection, nothing else. What Starlight does is three things. First, it reads the transcript, identifying patterns of questioning, talk ratios, wait time, and moments of interruption. It does this across the whole lesson, not just a clip. Second, it surfaces observations. It flags 2 or 3 specific moments for the teacher to notice, not to rank, not to score, simply to notice. Third, it offers reflection prompts, open questions, and optional suggested actions. What the teacher does with them is entirely their decision. The report is private by default. There is no compulsory scoring. The teacher controls their own data, including deletion. This is coaching, not compliance. Here we can see Starlight's discourse analysis view. This is a visual representation of classroom talk. Teacher voice, student voice, patterns of exchange. Drawn directly from the lesson transcript. The analysis identifies where dialogue opened up and where it closed down, where questions generated thinking and where they generated compliance, where the facilitator gave students space and where, perhaps without realizing it, they didn't. This is available within minutes of uploading audio. No observation, no external visit, and no judgment. Starlight uses a structured coaching template system designed for different pedagogical contexts. Templates can be configured by schools or by individual teachers. They shape what Starlight looks for and what it reflects back. The pedagogy shapes the analysis, not the other way around. This is a philosophy coaching feedback template in action. It structures the report around the specific values of dialogic inquiry, the quality of questioning, the distribution of voice, the protection of student reasoning, and the facilitator's role in sustaining rather than directing the dialogue. The template is grounded in what good philosophical facilitation looks like, not in generic teaching standards. That specificity is what makes the feedback useful. And here is an example of a completed feedback report drawn from a real lesson exploring the Berlin Wall and the theme of walls in history and philosophy. The report identifies strengths evidenced in the transcript. It surfaces 1 to 3 high-leverage next steps. And it ends with reflective prompts, open questions the teacher can return to in their own time. There is no grade, no overall judgment, no rating scale. Just grounded, specific, private feedback. The kind that's almost impossible to get regularly through any other means. Any serious use of technology in education should come with hard questions attached. Here are 3 we believe are worth sitting with. First, does making dialogue visible change dialogue? If a teacher knows their lesson will be transcribed and analyzed, even privately, does that alter how they facilitate? Does the teacher as observer change how the teacher as facilitator acts? This is a version of the observer effect, and it's real. We don't dismiss it. Second, what is lost when reflection becomes automated? Is there something irreducible about human coaching? The relationship, the contextual judgment, the feel of a conversation that no transcript can reach? We think the answer is yes. Starlight is not a substitute for human mentoring. It's a complement to it. Third, can AI deepen practitioner agency or does it erode it? Even private analysis creates an internal audience. Does knowing what the data shows change how a teacher feels about their practice, in ways that are liberating, or in ways that are subtly constraining? These questions don't have clean answers. They are the questions that should be driving how tools like Starlight are designed and used. Brilliant practice lives in pockets. The challenge is scale, sustaining it across whole schools, trusts, and systems, without turning professional development into compliance. Transcript-based reflection is one serious answer to that challenge. And the principle underneath all of it, if we believe dialogue shapes thinking, then listening back to our dialogue may shape us. If this resonates, If you're interested in what transcript-based coaching could look like in your school, your network, or your research, we'd welcome the conversation. You can find Starlight at starlightmentor.com. Our research blog is at coaching.software. And if you want to reach us directly, email at info@starlightmentor.com. Thank you for watching.